As a territory of the United States of America, Hawaii did not have as many privileges as it does now as a state. The debate on whether Hawaii should remain a territory or become a state lasted at least 55 years. The decision to admit Hawaii as the 50th state was made on August 21, 1959. In 1893, sugar planters overthrew the legitimate Hawaiian government of Queen Liliuokalani. Although this action was seen as illegal by President Cleveland, Hawaii was annexed as a territory under the administration of his successor, President McKinley. Most native Hawaiians were against Hawaii being annexed as a territory of the United States. The reality of annexation changed the options open to native Hawaiians. After annexation, the main choice was whether to apply for statehood or remain a territory. For some Hawaiians and many of the working people of Hawaii, it seemed that becoming a state offered them more say in government. On the other hand, it took almost 40 years for the sugar industry to become convinced that statehood was a better option than remaining a territory. Statehood was a better option than remaining a territory of the United States of America because it increased Hawaii's representation in Congress, kept the United States military from gaining complete control, and had a large impact on Hawaii's economy. Statehood couldn't and did not become a reality until the majority of the ruling class of Hawaii, the working class of Hawaii, and the American federal government all saw it as the most favorable option. The ruling class mainly consisted of the sugar industry and some Hawaiians. The working class was mainly made up of some Hawaiians and the immigrants who came to work in the sugar and pineapple fields and their posterity. For some Hawaiians and for many of the immigrant sugar workers, a key reason for choosing statehood over being a territory was because the islanders did not have all of the particular rights that citizens on the mainland had. For example, although all islanders could vote, their votes could be amended or changed by the U.S. Congress whether the people of Hawaii wanted the change or not. Hawaiians could not elect their own governor or judges. These positions were appointed by officials in Washington, D.C. As a territory, Hawaii was allowed a single delegate, who had a voice but not a vote in the House of Representatives. The first representative for Hawaii when it was a territory was Prince Jonah Kuhio Kalanianaole. When Hawaii's monarchy was overthrown, he was part of the Wilcox Rebellion, a group who rebelled against colonization. Despite his dislike of annexation, in 1902, Prince Kuhio attempted to expand native Hawaiian say in the colonial government by running for office. He ran against the party dominated by sugar producers. It was sugar producers who had overthrown Queen Liliuokalani. He was elected to be Hawaii's only representative in Congress. However, because Hawaii was a territory, he had no vote in Congress. Prince Kuhio introduced the first statehood bill to Congress. After that, many statehood bills were submitted, although none were passed until 1959. Why did it take so long? One of the reasons was that many people in the United States were prejudiced against Pacific Islanders and Asians who immigrated to Hawaii to work in the sugar and pineapple fields. Many on the mainland found it hard to welcome the many different ethnicities that lived on these islands. Another reason is that very powerful people in the islands did not want Hawaii to be a state. The United States military wanted Hawaii for a strategic location in the Pacific. President Truman, a former president of the United States, said that Hawaii was vital to the defense of the United States of America. In the early 1930s, the U.S. military suggested placing the islands under a commission government, partially because of their prejudice towards Hawaiians and Asian immigrants. A commissioned military government would mean that the military would control the islands of Hawaii. The military presence was felt even more strongly when the U.S. fleet moved its headquarters from San Pedro, California, to Pearl Harbor on May 7, 1940. Also, in the 1920s and early 1930s, the sugar companies and some Hawaiians were against Hawaii becoming a state. The chief reason was because the territorial government was not very democratic. This limited the sugar and pineapple workers from having very much of a say in how the government would be run. Native Hawaiians and sugar plantation owners felt that if the large amount of immigrants who came to Hawaii were given the right to vote, then they would have too much power through voting. The sugar industry was Hawaii's main source of money. It was grouped into 5 main sugar companies. These companies were called the Big Five. They were made up by Alexander and Baldwin, American Factors, C. Brewer and Co., Castle and Cook, and Theo H. Davies. They dominated Hawaii's economy and local politics. Until 1934, the leaders of the sugar industry believed that being a territory served their best interests because the growing population of Asians who had come to work in the sugar fields did not have much say in governing. Also, most of the major territorial positions were appointed by Washington, who favored the sugar industry, which was given even more power because appointments were made. With both the military and sugar industry against statehood, and with the prejudice against Hawaiians and Asian immigrants, there seemed little possibilities that Hawaii could achieve statehood. However, the sugar industry felt threatened by the military's proposal for a commission government, which could seriously curtail their power. This fear of a military commission government was compounded by the financial hit produced by the Jones-Costigan Act, passed by Congress in 1934. Prior to this law, between 1923 to 1933, 15.5% of all the sugar sold in the United States came from Hawaii. In a comparison, only 11.4% was from Puerto Rico, and an even smaller amount of 3.7% from Louisiana and Florida. The Jones-Costigan Act, passed in 1934, placed a tax on Hawaii's sugar. Before this, Hawaiian sugar had been counted as a domestic sugar and not taxed. But the 1934 law said that even though Hawaii was a territory, the sugar could be taxed like it was from a foreign sugar producer. By 1938 to 1939, the percentage of American sugar sales shifted. Louisiana and Florida up to 6.8%, Hawaii down to 12.2%, and Puerto Rico down to 10.2%. Hawaii's share of the market was declining in a way that concerned the Big Five. The sugar industry started to feel that they were being treated unfairly. They felt that it was too much time and effort for too little money. It seemed to them that the federal government was pursuing policies that threatened the sugar industry by continually reducing Hawaii's percentage of the total sugar sold to the U.S. Sugar producers realized that if they were a state, they would not have to pay this tax. Thus, their concerns regarding a military commission government and the Jones-Costigan Act influenced the sugar industry to support statehood. Shortly after the sugar industry began to favor statehood, World War II began. The war postponed the push for statehood. Through the 1940s and 1950s, the federal government began to change their mind about not accepting Hawaii as a state. Before, the main reason for not voting Hawaii in as a state was because of all the different ethnicities that lived on the islands. The many ethnicities proved themselves loyal to the United States of America in World War II, particularly the Japanese. In the end, statehood did become a reality, and the majority of the ruling class of Hawaii, the working class of Hawaii, and the American federal government all saw it as the most favorable option. Although annexation was unfair to Native Hawaiians, statehood became a better option than remaining a territory. Hawaii's statehood succeeded in bringing representation for Hawaii to Congress, keeping the military or sugar industry from gaining complete control, and impacting Hawaii's economy in a large way.